Hey everybody, welcome back to the Art of Resilience podcast. Today we're going to be continuing on the 20th anniversary series with Sergeant Joseph Reeves. Reeves and I met on my last deployment in Iraq at FOB Iskandariyah. He kind of came to us really about 6 months before the deployment and was a new guy working with us. And all the memories that I have of Joe, he was one of those guys everybody liked. He was super friendly, skinny fucker, and he showed up as an E5 sergeant in the Army. He did a really good job at making sure that soldiers were taken care of. To the point, if I remember correctly, where, he may have received criticism from his peers because of how kind he was. That's not really normal in the Army, and but that was who he was. He was very kind. After that deployment, which was pretty rough for everybody, we went our separate ways. He PCS'd to Germany, and we hadn't really spoke much until I guess it was about 2 years ago. We had a reunion. Still happy-go-lucky guy, but on the inside he was struggling. I didn't really know to the extent that he was dealing with those kinds of things, and after interviewing, finding out, even when I knew him back then, so I think a lot of us do that in our life. We feel like it's important that we maintain this visibility of being tough or being able to handle whatever we're getting thrown at. That's what we want, to be resilient, but sometimes we're not. I have conversations with so many other men that are dealing with the exact same thing. They are just kind of struggling on the inside, and we all develop this sort of isolation or perception of isolation. I think it's really also common for veterans to feel that way when they get out of the military. I never knew that this man was suffering on the inside, and he's been through a shit ton. And when we were getting ready to start the interview, he told me, he's like, man, I told my family that I was going to be on this podcast with you, and they're all excited. And he's like, I'm really excited to share my story, because if it helps somebody, then that means a lot to me, and it's really incredible. I mean, you'll hear what he's been through, but listen for what he says gets him through it all. Listen to what he says about what he learned at a very young age that helps him get through the really hard times and still be the happy-go-lucky guy that he is today. Get it out. Hey, what's up? Welcome back to the Art of Resilience podcast with your host, Jim Artman. Today, I'm sitting here with former military. I think you achieved the rank of staff sergeant before you got out of the Army. Is that correct? Me and him served together in the Iraq War back in, 2007 to almost 2009 on a 15-month combat deployment.
Yeah.
Great guy. We worked together at a sniper section, and I wanted to reach out to him as we're working on this project for the 20th anniversary of the Iraq War, and let him kind of share his story about what his opinions were of the war and how it impacted him. And so with that said, thank you again, Joe, for coming on here and being willing to share your story. and I'm excited about getting into it.
Yeah, no problem, Jim. Like you said, serving with you was awesome. So we got a lot to talk about with that, and
Well, awesome. I appreciate that. So, to get started, why don't you tell everybody just sort of, how many years did you end up serving, and where was that? Where did you serve?
yeah, no problem. So from the beginning, I joined senior year in high school, 1999. A buddy of mine walked up to me and said, "Man, you should join the army." I was kind of a rat head back then. Just not. I didn't have
Fuck
any
yeah,
any
dude. Why
respect for
not? Yeah.
authority. I didn't have any plans after high school, no college, nothing. I just thought I was going to be living in mom's house or something. So I went and talked to the recruiter just because he told me to, and I joined right there on the block. Just came home with the paper at 17 and said, "Mom, I need you to sign this." And she said, "Oh hell yeah!" Like that was like, she didn't think I'd ever do anything cool. And so I did, and left a month after graduation and after high school, and went in the infantry and started in '99. Ended up serving pretty close to about 12 years. I had a couple of breaks in service. My first was a 3-year contract. Got out in '02, so right after 9/11, actually. Um, I was actually for 9/11. I was getting out of the field at the wash rack washing Bradleys, and the wives called us. And then all that kicked off, and then we started hearing about stop losses and nobody getting out. All of our contracts were going to get extended. Mine never really did. I just didn't pay much attention to it. I just did what I was told to do for the rest of my contract, and then it was time to ETS, get out of the army, and so I did, not thinking much of it. Uh, I was married at the time. My wife at the time did not like the military life, so I thought, being a good husband, I'll go and get out and go back home and do what she wanted to do. Um, that lasted about 6 months. And then a buddy of mine called me up uh, and asked if I wanted to join the National Guard. Sounded like he was having a lot of fun, so I joined the National Guard for Washington National Guard, and tried to switch over to a chemical unit. And uh, I never held the MOS for chemical 74 Delta. Uh, so I just was 11 Bravo in the 74 Delta chemical unit. And then I met my new wife, Jim. You've met her, Larry, Keontae's mom. And we hit it off, and I said, "Man, I need a real job. I need real money. National Guard and college money is not doing it." So she was always fond of active duty military, and I said, "Man, I could do that again." I said, "Where do you want to go? We can go anywhere." And she said, "I always wanted to go to Fort Hood, Texas." Well, that was my first duty station, was Fort Hood, Texas. I said, "Man, I could do that again. I know everybody there."
Yeah,
No,
that's a
I
big
didn't.
base.
Yeah, I went back there. My first unit was First Cav on one side of the base, and then when I went back, I was Fourth ID, the other side of the base. Didn't know anything about Fort Hood. The second time was totally different. We were married in 2005, and our honeymoon was Vegas, and then en route to my duty station. We didn't skip a beat. Married,
Nice.
honeymoon, driving to Fort Hood, Texas from Vegas. um, Crazy. This is the fast story, but and then as soon as I get there, get to my unit, past the um, where you first sign in, like
uh,
30th AG,
yeah, just like in processing or whatever.
in processing. Get
Hmm.
get past in processing, get to the unit. First day there. Hey, bud. Hey, Specialist Reeves. We're going to Iraq in like 2 months. Get ready. like that same day. I went home, told her, she cried, all that. I said, shit, man. All right, here we go. That was my first 12-month deployment in a regular leg unit, just brand, back in as a specialist, and got my team leader position right then. And we went to Iraq for 12 months. And that one, we'll get into it. That was definitely my most, it's hard to say, most dangerous, um, most injuries. We'll say that. Most injuries in that deployment.
And that was in
Um,
2005, you said?
2005. And then went to Iraq for 12 months, came home, ETS'd, 8 months in between, went to Fort Stewart, met Jim. We hung out for a little bit, and then what? I was there maybe 6 months, and we deployed
I don't even
again.
think it was that long. I just
I
remember
don't even think it was that long.
I remember sitting in our
Yeah, it
little
was like
sniper
4 to
shed.
6 months.
I remember sitting in our sniper shed,
Yeah,
and they're like, "Yeah, we got a new guy coming," and
yeah.
I'm pretty
We'll
sure I
talk
was
about
sitting
that too.
there
That was a,
practicing giving myself IVs, and all I had
yeah.
left was 10 gauge needles, and
Oh my
for some
god,
reason,
that's
I've done it so
that's
many
huge.
times. For some reason, that time
Yeah,
I started getting real dizzy, and I'm like laying on the concrete floor, and you poked your head in the office, and I'm like,
yeah,
yeah.
100%, dude.
You
Yeah.
remember that?
Yeah, I do. I do. I actually, surprisingly, I remember a lot of little stories like that for us and of my old unit and stuff. But I still remember a lot of our stories, man, and how fun it was and how the camaraderie. I wasn't. I will say that I do remember I wasn't really welcomed right off the bat in the sniper section. I didn't have any real experience as a sharpshooter, as a long range shooter. But I had a lot of leadership, I had a lot and I had a lot of personality, and kind of that's what sold the sergeant major when he brought me to the unit. Um, but yeah, I think we were there. I know I didn't have enough time there really to go to school, so we had to do the satellite class. So I got to participate in the sniper satellite class. So they came from Fort Benning, from the schoolhouse, and trained a bunch of us for long range. And then turned around and we left right after that. I mean, it was I got to do WLC. It was WLC then, E5 course. And then we left. Yeah, that was all I got to do before we left. Was that class and warrior leader course, and then we left for Iraq for 15 months. Um, After that 15 months, everybody came home and we started PCSing and stuff. And then I had some choices to make real quick right then. Either stay. I did think about staying in the sniper section and continuing that with Bill, Sergeant Powers. Remember him? Oh, you might not have remembered him. He was the E7 that took Neely's place
Gotcha.
for the scouts.
Yeah, I
Um,
think I was gone.
and it kind of, yeah, like after you guys left, it we just kind of fell apart. I could have stayed and tried to fight and keep the snipers going, but it was time for me to reenlist. I got my E6, and I reenlisted, so I got to choose a PCS or stay. I already had drill sergeant orders because I put a packet in for while we were in Iraq, and I got Fort Jackson, relaxing Jackson. And so my wife and I had to make a choice. What were we gonna do? Either stay at Stewart, go to Jackson. I thought about SF because we had a couple of high speed guys around us that were going there, and I was like, man, I could probably do that too. But then the retention officer he was like, well, Germany's open. And I thought of Germany because that could be a chance to go see the world, like get out of the bubble, you know? Um, and we chose that. And that's where the real stories start coming in. That's definitely because until then I still hadn't asked for any help from deployment, issues, PTSD, traumatic brain injury. From my first deployment, I got blown up a lot and had a lot of traumatic events that caused PTSD, but I never asked for help. I don't even know if you guys knew that in the sniper section, how much struggle I was going through personally.
I don't. I
I
mean,
I
I
used
just
to try
remember
to
you as like a super happy guy, and really caring a
hide.
lot
Exactly.
about. You were very focused on taking care of soldiers.
Yeah, that was how I masked my internal demons, was just that. You know me as the happy-go-lucky sergeant that loved to just make sure soldiers were happy and morale was up and training was good. That's what I focused on. That's how I kept me from having any kind of depression moments. Or if I did, it was always on my time. I didn't want our guys to, especially when us leaving for Iraq again, I didn't want to scare them. We had some young guys,
Yeah,
you know.
19.
Uh,
I think
yeah,
half of them
all
were
our guys
19.
were what? Yeah, like 19, 20. I think you, me, and Kale were probably the oldest ones, and then Banger. Um, yeah, uh, I didn't want to ever put my personal demons out there for our guys. So yeah, I hid everything. So I still didn't ask for no help. When I got to Germany, it started squeaking out, and I couldn't. You know, it's like a volcano. Eventually, it has to go somewhere.
So did that happen during, or after? I'm assuming you did another deployment once you got to Germany.
No. So
So once you,
I got
so you showed up to Germany, and shortly after, you started noticing you
a
couldn't
lot
really
of
keep it in anymore.
downgrade of soldiering. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got to Germany. My first day, they put me on a 10-day lockdown for lost equipment, even though I wasn't a part of it. I was still supposed to be in processing with my family to get housing, to get dental and medical hooked up, to get our housing and just getting gear. I hadn't even been to their CIF yet to get cold weather gear issued. We were in the mountains of Germany in Baumholder, and there was snow on the ground, like feet of snow. And the unit they dropped me in was on a lockdown for night vision goggles that were lost, stolen, and then found some other equipment. So they were on lockdown and added me to that roster, even though I wasn't even a part of it. They just, oh, get him, he's coming here, get him out of the in processing process and just keep him in this barracks. And
That's
so
the
we
army
just,
for you. Makes no
yeah,
sense.
exactly. So my family's out there just trying to do housing and stuff in a base that's covered in 3 feet of snow. And my son's 3 years old at the time. They don't have a car because it's still getting shipped. Uh, we don't know any wives. We didn't know the FRG. The Family Readiness Group. We didn't know nothing, and they didn't help us at all. So I'm just sitting in the barracks. The one cool thing over there was they had vending machines in the barracks that had tall boys of Heineken. So I was good. Joe was happy. but yeah, in that 10 days, I got to know some of my guys and stuff. By this time, I'm a staff sergeant. But just jumping into a unit like that, it already started messing with my morale of what kind of unit this is. And found out that it was mostly ran by officers. Now, me and you know that we had some good officers and some not so good officers. But in this place, it was a different mentality than we had in stateside. They did not show love or care what a staff sergeant thought. They didn't care what E5s thought. They didn't care what specialists thought. It was literally a base that was ran by officers. Even Sergeant First Classes had trouble initiating training, getting range time. It was all, no, we're doing paperwork. Just sit in the barracks, wait for something. During this lockdown, I tried to do like room clearing drills and just see where my guys were. I got my guys. I had a team of 8, and we weren't allowed to train. Even in the barracks, we couldn't do hip pocket training. Just sit on the bed and read our book manuals. Like we used to. If the weather was bad or we didn't want to go out into the woods or something, we'd just hip pocket training, right? Like make the best of the time.
Absolutely,
we weren't allowed to. It was crazy. I didn't understand this type of leadership. I didn't understand this type of behavior, soldiering, army. It was very foreign to me over there. And so my morale really started off really in a negative zone. And then that got all resolved. They actually gave us lie detector tests. Gave me a lie detector test. I wasn't even there.
Yeah, are you still talking about this 10-day lockdown?
Yeah.
Good.
And so, yeah, they gave us all lie detector tests, and one of the guys got an inconclusive result, and so they pinned it on him and made him pay like $2,000 and took his rank. Gave him Article 15 for it. And he wasn't even an armor. It wasn't even his ordeal. But he didn't know how to do a lie detector test. Like, who does, really,
What happened with you where you said that you started struggling, where you couldn't really keep it down anymore?
Yeah, so then right after that kind of put my morale in a different headspace from what I was used to. I was used to being a happy-go-lucky soldier sergeant with soldiers that we could go do training and keep the morale up and everything. No. So then we got past that, and they said, oh, by the way, we're going to Afghanistan in about 4 to 6 months. Still waiting on orders. So again, right off the bat, I'm getting told I'm deploying. So I was like, okay, well, we need to do some training. So I start doing everything that I learned from you, from Kale, from the sniper section, from my first unit, everything we needed to do, IED drills, rollover drills, all that kind of stuff, right? And setting up range times, everything got canceled. Nobody would let us do anything. So I was really getting like disappointed in how are we supposed to deploy with no training. We went to the range one time to qualify our weapons. We did our PT test. That's all we did for training to deploy for Afghanistan.
What unit was this?
They do have what unit?
Yeah.
3-4 infantry, 171st, I believe, out of Baumholder. I believe they're disbanded now. I'm not quite sure. But they do have what's called Grafenveer training, which is like like the Fort Irwin NTC, 45 days. We did do that. But in that, we did the bare minimum. And, you know, just like NTC, units get rated and graded by, you know, range officers and whatnot. Remember that?
Yeah. Hey, for
Yeah.
for people that maybe not familiar with NTC, do you mind just kind of quickly explaining what that is?
Yeah, no problem. So NTC is the National Training Center. It's a month-long training event for our desert training. Every unit goes there before any deployment to the Middle East. Great training. Most of the time, it's great training. And it's about 30 days. And in that, units get graded to make sure that we're up to snuff for a deployment and whatever mission we're slotted for in Iraq or Afghanistan. So in Europe, it's kind of hard to get those units over to California, Fort Irwin. So they made theirs at Grafenwehr base, which is the big base over in next to Frankfurt, Germany. And they do it for 45 days. And you would think that's super cool because that's 15 more days. That's 15 more days of awesome training. My unit decided to sit on their butt. Yeah, that's what it was. We did no training. We did only what they asked us to do, only what we had to do to get out of there. And that was a bummer. But I was starting to get mentally beat down because I didn't want to go to Afghanistan untrained. I knew what we went through in Iraq both times from both my deployments. And I knew from my stories from my other soldiers that Afghanistan was a whole different ball of wax. A lot of mountains, a lot of rucking, you know, a lot of walking, a lot of broke down vehicles and having to walk it out, you know, a lot of small arms fire in random mountain ranges. I didn't want to go do that with no training. So I started speaking my mind. And, you know, as well as I know, you start speaking your mind a little too much. Yeah, the big army starts. Yeah. So I was kind of like put on a blacklist a little bit. I wasn't in trouble yet, but halfway through this Grafenwehr is the first time I actually seriously got in trouble in the military. We had a day off, complete day off. It was like a Sunday afternoon. And so I took two of my high-speed specialists, the cool guys, the two cool guys with me, and we went off base and went to a couple of pubs around the village that we were close to. And there was nothing wrong with that. But then we started drinking. And Jim, you've drank with me. I don't know how to stop. It wasn't actually that bad. We had a few beers and a couple shots of Jaeger, and you know, we were just in these crazy pubs in a small village. We came back, no big deal. I told my guys, hey, just be quiet, go to your bunk, sit down, go to bed, read a book, go take a shower. We weren't like completely wasted or nothing. It was a nice time to let loose a little bit. But I knew once we got back, we couldn't be standing next to any high-ranking people. My platoon sergeant asked my youngest guy, my youngest specialist that I took, where were we? Because we were about an hour and a half later than everybody else. We didn't have a curfew. We got back at 8 o'clock, but everybody else got back at 6. So they were like, where were you? Like, what were you guys doing for 2 hours while everybody else is like already here doing nothing? And he, being a young soldier, didn't know how to, you know, alter his answer. Said, Sergeant, we were drinking beer. Right then, I was like, I put my head down. Jim, I put my head down right there, and I said, under my breath, I said, there goes my E6. Sure enough, 3 days later, they read me an Article 15. That hurt. You know, Staff Sergeant is a great rank to have, and it takes a lot of hard work to get it. And to me, it was like the best rank in the Army because you're like halfway in the leadership area and halfway you're still in charge of your soldiers. And it took me a long time to get that rank. And sure enough, 3 days they tried to take it. Well, lucky me, I've always studied my regs and regulations and I knew my rights, so I go to JAG and I plead my case and I go to the colonel, getting my Article 15 read, found out that they kind of like fudged some things and the paperwork wasn't correct, so I got to like keep my E6 for a little bit until they could prove it a little bit better, because that's what they do. They will find a way. By then, I was already on a blacklist of just a hard-headed NCO, and so they were just trying to find more to get me. Sure enough, they did. By the time we got home from this 45-day deployment, they read me a real Article 15, took my E6. I still was in a leadership position. It took a minute. I had to do my my 30 days and everything, half month's pay for 2 months, blah, blah, blah. Had to do that. But after that, they put me back in charge of guys. And without missing a beat, I said, guys, you can get in trouble and you can recover. This is how you do it. And so my guys, without missing a beat, we just carried on. I was still on that blacklist. I didn't know it. About 2 months after that of being home, I accidentally went to it was payday. I went and got gas at the gas station at the class or at the shopette. Over there, we have ration cards. I forgot to get my ration card signed and punched and like go in and pay. I was talking to another sergeant first class selling a car, and I got caught up in a conversation and I ended up driving off without paying. I went off base like nobody's business, did my errands, tried to get back on base. They stopped me at the front gate and say, hey, stay here. The MPs are coming to talk to you. I said, man, I ain't got time for this, like what's going on? MPs get there, they're laughing, walking up to me. Hey, are you Sergeant Reeves? Yeah, what's up? And they're like, hey, did you know that you didn't pay for gas today? And oh man, you're right, I did. They're like, okay, well, let's go. We'll go down there, you pay, we'll bring you back to your car. On the way there, they call their station, and the station says, hey, his commander called and said that he did that shit on purpose, arrest him.
What?
It was payday. You know me, I wouldn't just drive off without paying gas. It was an airheaded move. And they were laughing at me because the MP saw the video and they could tell that I was having an interaction with another soldier and just jumped into my truck and drove off. They were cool with it, but when they called their commander at the MP station, somehow my commander said I did it on purpose and to arrest me. So I got arrested. Read my rights, sat in the jail cell for like half a day. My first sergeant came and got me. My first sergeant actually was cool. He was like, did you mean to do that? I said, no, you can look at the video. It's payday, first sergeant. All right. Well, sure enough, my commander wrote me up in Article 15 for that. Took my E5.
Wow.
So that pretty much right there was that cut my head off. My morale was done. I couldn't fathom. I couldn't recover from it. I got pulled into the commander's office and he just told me I was a piece of shit. I wasn't a good soldier. He doubted that I ever was a good soldier or a leader. I should have never been in a leadership position. All kinds of stuff. Good hours ass chewing. And I just stood there at attention, let him do it. Went into the first sergeant's office and said, hey, first sergeant, you know, I've never gotten help for my PTSD and traumatic brain injuries. I knew I kind of did because I have gone to doctors and stuff, but I never gone any further than just getting told. I said, hey, first sergeant, I think it's time for me to start getting some help for my mental illnesses and stuff. And he was like, all right, soldier. And that same day I got that hour-long ass chewing, I went to the medics or to the their little hospital. It's called Longstuhl or Baumholder Hospital. They took me to Longstuhl Hospital, which is the main hospital in Germany. It's where all soldiers go through before they hit the States for any kind of casualties or problems. And got grade of tests, neurology, psychological, everything, X-ray, MRIs, heart monitor, everything, CAT scan. Came back the next day with 16 appointments and a handful of medication, a handful of everything under the sun. And just that from that day forward, I just worked on medical. I didn't really soldier ever after that. So for a whole year, I had Germany is a 3-year a 3-year post PCS unit. And when you're married, it's 3 years or 2 years. Is it? Man, I can't remember now. Yeah, it's been about 12 years, 14 years, so I can't remember that. But it's when you're married and you bring your family, it's 3 years because you have your loved ones with you. For a single soldier, it'd be 2 years. This is about a little under a year that this happened. And so I think I got almost a year and a half left to deal with these people. So I just like, okay, fine. I'm just going to do all my medical and I'll just feed my schedule with appointments after appointments and be a what we used to call a sick call ranger, basically. And just, and just eat it up. Go to therapy. I went to alcohol treatment because alcohol became an addiction, straight up every night, every day. Anytime I could get away from it, away from work, I just hit the bottle, and it was a lot. And then I just did all my appointments. I didn't do any more PT. I didn't have soldiers anymore to be responsible for. I was only responsible for myself. So I just ate that up, and my unit hated me for it because they're about to leave for Afghanistan. And, you know as well as I do, they're looking for numbers. They need everybody on board to go do that. Well, when I started getting all this medical stuff going, that made me ineligible because now it's on paperwork that I have PTSD and TBI, which is a traumatic brain injury. My first deployment, I got blown up 8 times from roadside bombs, IEDs. Yeah, IEDs, improvised explosive devices. I never told nobody really that. That was 8 times. I have no clue why I have all 10 fingers and no scars. All my scars are internal.
It's a miracle. Huh? I mean,
I have so many of those kind of stories where it's like, Joe, how the fuck are you still breathing? But I am.
So
this unit just hated
going through that in Germany. I imagine that was pretty much you're on your way out of the military after that, right?
Yeah.
So they deployed. Did you PCS back to the stateside, or did you ETS out of Germany?
Well, when they left, I still was doing medical, trying to get out. They were trying to get me actually kicked out, like dishonorable or through a chapter of court martial, whatever they could do. They were trying to get me. I just kind of stayed under the radar, and but alcohol and pills started taking over my life, dramatically. I ended up telling my wife, right when they deployed, I told my wife that I'm not being a good husband anymore, and I'm not being a good dad, so you need to leave me. I forced her out of my life to divorce me. Yeah, it was again, this is a little bit sped up story. I'd love to tell you the long version of this, but pretty much that was it. I wasn't a good person at that moment, and I was alcohol and drugs, my medications took control of my life, and I was on 16 different medications. And Jim, I will tell you that, you know, we've played hard, but we work hard, and we've always worked hard, and off time was off time. We go get drunk, you know, go to the bar, come home, do it again in the morning, you know, go right back to PT and do that. This was not the case. I was drinking 540s a day with a bottle of vodka, and that was 5 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. I would put that back. It got so bad I was snorting all my medication. It was a real drug addict. I was a real piece of work right there. A lot of stuff happened. A lot of trauma. So I told my wife to leave, and I couldn't do this no more. I started being a single soldier, doing what single soldiers do, going downtown, going to the clubs, you know, and it got pretty rough. And then yeah, ending Germany was very close call for getting court-martialed. We had 9 overdoses in one week from our medications in my unit.
In your unit? Wow.
In my 200 guys, in my 200-man unit, we had 9 overdoses in 1 week. My Germany best friend, who I was living with after I left my wife, I started living with him a little bit. He overdosed on his pills and killed himself. That right there broke me. That was my rock bottom. Once that happened, I was his battle buddy. You know, we were the 3 amigos. We had 3 of us that were just making a lot of poor choices, but the units just hated us, and so us 3 banded together, and this one soldier ended his life from his pills.
Do you feel like when that happened that it sort of like really hit home with you as like that could be me or should be me, you know? Yeah, because you feel awful.
Yeah. That could be, should be. Yep.
I can see
that could be, should be hit me. Yeah. And when I started, when that week, that was the same week, we had 9 other overdoses. So it was actually 10. My friend who held on for 2 weeks, his mom and dad came, and they pulled the plug. I was a pallbearer for him. I cried the whole day. I was the loudest one at the funeral crying. I was crying for him and his family, but I was also crying for myself. It should be, could be me. And from that day forward, I started hearing that we started getting the leadership started catching on that we had a drug problem, obviously. And then we started getting the MPs raiding our barracks a lot. The canines were in our barracks about 3 or 4 times a week for months, about 3 months. The next 3 months after that, about 3-4 times a week, canines were coming in looking for drugs. We'd get harassed and interrogated down at the MP station. I did probably a total of 60 to 80 hours of interrogation for who's got the drugs, where are they coming from, who's supplying them, who's addicted to drugs, whose drugs are you using, are you selling drugs? I'll be honest now, because I don't have to not be honest. I was the one selling them. I was the one getting them. I was the one organizing it. I was not being the Joe that you remember.
Yeah. Not at all.
And it hurts my heart now to tell you that, but staring on this phone, staring at your face, I have to tell you, that was not the Joe you remember.
Well,
it hurt a lot.
It did. None of the stuff, really manifested for me until really I got out, and then I went through a divorce and, I did a lot of things I wasn't proud of, drained myself into oblivion, ended up dropping out of school, was non-functional, and so that was definitely.
So you were able to hold it together until you ETS'd?
You do what?
You were able to hold yourself together until you ETS'd?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I went straight to working at sniper school as an instructor. And
I remember that.
And I worked, pretty much 6 days a week.
So kind of like
I
what
I didn't really have a lot of free time,
Yeah. So maybe you kind of did what I did at the beginning of just throw yourself into work to just try to get by, not crack. Yeah. To not lose it. Yeah.
Yeah. It really wasn't until, things like loud noises would fuck me up. I remember bow hunting one time in the evening, and it was in a bow-only wildlife management area. And I'm up in a tree stand, and it was early season. I remember sweating profusely, and I saw a hunter come by with an assault rifle and a bunch of dogs, which is illegal,
Right. Okay.
And for some reason, it triggered me so bad because, I didn't move. I stayed there in that tree and didn't move because I felt like if this man is going to come in here and be so blatantly, breaking the law, then he very well could shoot at me. I mean, I've run into other deer hunters that got pissed off because I was walking by their tree stand,
you're in their zone,
and and threatened my life before. So I waited until it was just about completely dark before I climbed down out of the stand, and he was gone. And I was walking through this area where there was brush kind of over on both sides. And it reminded me of, one of the areas that I was in Iraq where there's those tall reeds along the canals,
That was with me, right?
Yeah. And all of a sudden,
I know that feeling.
It was like I was in Iraq, and I started having a panic attack. Had to call my wife to get her to talk me down so I could get out of the woods, So there was a couple times, things like that happened, but the deep depressive state that I ended up getting into after I got out, I didn't really have it. That didn't happen to me until, it seemed like once I was away from the military, and guys that, the tribe, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. I can relate to that.
If you don't mind, could you tell me a little bit about that for you?
Yeah. We could definitely get into that on a later time, but after the military, so the way I got out was right after all that I just explained, pretty much right after that, my commander came to me one day, just out of the blue, and said, "Hey, Reeves, you know I don't like you, but I have a way that I can send you home if you would like." "I'm listening." He brought me into his office and he said, "President Obama is downsizing the military by 50,000 soldiers. Do you remember anything about that?"
Yes. Yeah, I remember
Something
they
about
were
that? Okay.
headhunting E7s that were camped out in trade-off for
Yes, 100%. Yeah, trying to just get them out.
yeah.
So he proposed that to me and said, you could stay here and deal with everything that you're doing, and I know you're involved in some things, but we have no proof. So what I'm proposing is you get out on this early release program. I said, "Give me a week to think about it, Commander." And he's like, "Okay, I can do that." I came back in about 5 to 7 days and said, "Send me home." I couldn't take it no more. I couldn't be a soldier. I always said if I wasn't enjoying myself or I wasn't being a good soldier or just it wasn't there no more, I'd get out. And he gave me that key to get out. Um, I was sitting it took forever. A couple more weeks go by. He said it was going to be fast. It wasn't. Nothing in the military is fast. um, I call him up once a week. "Hey, my order's in. Hey, my order's in." Nothing, nothing, nothing. I was sitting on the grass one day waiting for formation to start. All of us just sitting on grass. I was in a pile of clovers, like, clovers, 3-leaf clovers. I found a 4-leaf clover. Just randomly found a 4-leaf clover. I showed my guys, "Oh my God, man, guys, check it out. I got a 4-leaf clover." About 3 or 4 days later, I got my orders. 10 days later, I was out in the military.
Nice.
That last day in the military, yeah, it just happened that fast. That last day in the military, I signed out October 21st, 2011. I had a 18-hour airplane ride. I believe it was 18. It might have been 16. Airplane ride back to my home of record, which was Yakima, Washington, to my mom's house. I didn't have nowhere to go. I didn't have a family anymore. I didn't have a career. I didn't even have myself. On that 18-hour flight, I had the longest, most sad, heartfelt talk with myself. I promised myself that day I would never take a pharmaceutical drug again. I would never go get pills from doctors. I would never get pills from my friends. I was done. I felt like that was my real downfall. Was that was the real devil on my shoulder was the pills.
Do you mean pharmaceuticals like for mental health, like SSRIs,
Everything,
things like that?
yeah, everything. I was scared of it all. I scared myself so bad in Germany that I didn't want to partake in. I didn't even want Tylenol. I've even to this day I tell my wife I don't want Tylenol. She has to force me if I have a headache, which I have brain injury, so I have a headache every day. So, but a simple headache, she tries to give me a Tylenol like a good like a wife does for her husband, and I try to deny it because I'm so scared still to this day. 12 years later, 13 years later, whatever it is. But that talk to myself, I promised myself that I was going to clean up, no more drugs, no more alcohol, and everything I put my family through, my wife and my son, I would never do that again to anybody, to myself, to anybody. So then I land, my mom picks me up. I'm trashed. I'm drunk at the airport, at SeaTac Airport. The last flight, the flight attendants gave me free alcohol.
You're like, damn it.
I was so Jim. I was so smashed. I was so smashed. My mom had my little brother with me. Now I'm ashamed of it now, but my little brother, who was at the time about 5, saw me like this, and I was crawling up the escalator. I couldn't stand up. I was that trashed. I don't know how they kept feeding me alcohol. I was in uniform, and they thought I was just a regular soldier going home. Let's treat the soldier, you know.
Let's
But
hook this dude up.
little did they know that I was an addict, I was an alcoholic, and I was getting kicked out of the military. I don't want to say kicked out of the military. I was asked to leave on a technicality. So my discharge is general under honorable conditions. So it's nothing bad. You know, he was nice about that part. He could have got me on dishonorable discharge. He could have got me on a court martial. He could have gone all the way. But he just left it at a general under honorable conditions because it was out of the Obama downsizing. So here I am, SeaTac Airport, smashed. Have a 2.5-hour ride home to Yakima, Washington. Drunk off my ass. I already broke my own promise.
Yeah.
My mom is pissed. But she understands. She knew a little bit of what I've been through. A little bit. Nobody really knew anything at all. Not even my wife at the time, who was still in Germany. She stayed in Germany about another year. 6 months to a year. After I got out of the military, I didn't know this until I talked to my mother about 2 years after I got out. I came home and I slept for 3 months.
3 months.
I slept for 3 months. I didn't leave my house. I didn't leave my bed. I didn't eat. I didn't do anything. I was in a functioning mental coma or some form of. I was mobile. I was awake. I was moving around my house, but I wouldn't leave my room. I didn't go nowhere. I didn't tell anybody I was home. You know, I'm in my hometown. I got lots of friends. Should be excited to see me. I didn't do anything for 3 months. She said I was asleep pretty much the whole day, all day, every day. She had to force me to get unemployment and to try to do VA, and she wanted me to go on SSI, like Social Security, disability, because we heard I could do both. So we were trying to get me on both because at that time I was dysfunctional, mentally and physically. But she said that I wasn't capable of taking care of myself for about 3 months. And then after that, I started coming around, started, smiling a little bit, getting out of the house a little bit, was on unemployment for about 8 total months, started healing. She just calls it my healing time. She let me. She was there for me to take care of me. Alcohol started, coming back. I had a mini mart that was 2 blocks away. That was the only time I left, was to go get beer and liquor. It was 2 blocks from my house, and I'd wait until she went to work, and then just hide in my room and get drunk, and cry. My dumbass would watch war movies. Yeah. Talk about total package of harming yourself, like
we're a little more salt in the wound.
Yeah, just I'm a glutton for punishment. Yeah. So for 3 months that's how it was, man. And it's I used to think I was a disgrace, and I was being disgraceful to my service and to my family and to myself. But then after that 3 months, I started to get out of the house. I started telling my friends I was home, still drinking, just like what you just got done saying. It started getting pretty bad again. And drinking and driving. I already had 2 DUIs in the military before I met you. I got lucky on those. They could have kicked me out on those. It was just me being dumb, soldier, as a private, just being dumb. I didn't get in too much trouble in those. It was just, I paid the cost, and I managed to escape any real punishment from the military for those DUIs. But then when I got out, I was doing it on purpose. I was trying. I don't know what I was trying at the time, but I was trying, if you understand what I'm saying.
You mean you just didn't care about your life, and
yeah, I would
hope
freeway. Yeah, freeway.
Go off the
drinking.
road and slam into a tree or something and be done with it.
Yeah. I figured if I hit the gas hard enough, I would lose control and crash. I didn't care. I didn't know. I didn't know what I was doing. My friends really started noticing that I wasn't anything like they remember. Now, the military does change you anyways, but they started telling me they didn't want to be around me anymore. I was aggressive. I was scary. I was drinking to be in rage. I've never been a raging alcoholic, I was always the fun guy. I was the clown,
Yeah, it's crazy because I've never heard this whole story from you before. And
I know.
It's like you said earlier, my memory of you is, the most cheerful dude in our unit.
Yeah.
Willing to do whatever for anybody.
Yeah.
You really exemplified selfless service and and leadership for your soldiers.
Both my units. I was actually in 5 total units, but the sniper section I always held in a high regards because before the sniper section, my whole goal was to be a sniper. I wanted to be airborne and I wanted to be sniper. I didn't get to do airborne, but I got to be a sniper. I didn't get to go to the schoolhouse, but I got to meet you guys.
You clearly have been through a lot of shit, suffered, and your story is also, it's powerful, but you're not the only one that's been through this. I think
no, there's actually.
I definitely had my own period of it. I know several other veterans that have been through very similar thing. Whatever your religious beliefs are, something, the universe obviously wants you to be here. Blown up 8 times.
I get
that. What you went through in Germany since you've been out. Let me ask you this. What, after going through all that stuff, that's enough to, kill anyone, or, that's incredibly difficult to recover from. How do you go through something like that and then come out the other side? So what is it that you learned? Do you feel grateful for your experience? Do you are you salty about the fact that you went to war in the first place? What is your sort of mindset about that? And what is it that you learned that enables you to be high functioning now at this point? Because you're married, you guys are buying a house right now. Your family loves you. You're working. And you told me before we got on the call that you never thought that would be possible for you.
Yeah, I just spent the last 45 minutes telling a pretty a downing, sad side of my story. There is another flip side to that of a lot of crazy fun and a lot of crazy positive side to this story. But what's kept me going? Something inside of me personally. This has been since I was a little child. I come from a very broken home too. My mom was a stripper from the age of 16 to 20, 22, 20, no, 26, about 10 years. And she had me when she had me when she was 14. She was pregnant at 13. Yeah. And she was a stripper at 16 until she was about 26. So I have that you can just imagine that my childhood is fucked just like my military.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I've always been able to do something for myself, and that's put myself around people that I can either make them happy and their morale good, or around people that can share their positive life with me. I don't know too many people that have really put it that way or been able to do that, but honestly, that's one of the things that's kept me going. I've always, look at our guys. Just a couple years I was with you. You knew me as a happy-go-lucky sergeant, E4 all the way to E6 that just loved to be around guys and train and make sure everybody's in a good mood and, crack jokes and, take care of their families and take care of them and, train hard and motivate. It was really because I could see good things in each and every one of you. This goes for all my units, but since I'm talking to you, I'm going to pertain it to our unit together, our time together.
That's awesome.
So in a way, I was going to try to steal some of your guys' happiness or what I perceived as you guys being happy. I know everybody has their story. Nobody knows what happens behind closed doors. But in my world, I always need to find people to hang around to keep me motivated to stay on the right track. Now,
so you're saying by seeing the good in other people, that's like
it's kept me.
That fills your battery up, charges your battery. That's awesome, dude.
It fuels me, and in turn with that, I try to do that for others. Even to this day, I'm not the same happy-go-lucky guy I used to be. Like you remember, and so many others remember. But I definitely still try to be that guy that others can do the same thing for me. I consciously make these choices to hang around people that are quality. Their morals are in order, in check, and then that helps me fuel my battery, like what you just said. And then I try to say, okay, well, since I'm taking that from them, I need to give something back. So I try to give them the good side of me, the warm-hearted, sharing good vibes, and always a shoulder to cry on, or so that I'm not just taking. I consciously make that an objective to do. That's my mission. Is if I'm taking, I have to give something. Yeah. So that's what keeps me going. Yeah. And when I lost my wife and my family, I didn't know if I wanted another one. I didn't know if that was going to be a possibility. I ended up getting a girl pregnant, and we had a baby together. But she was not somebody I normally would date long term, And so, but when she told me she was pregnant, I said, "Shit, Joe, I got to make this. I got to try." So we made it about a year and a half, and she said, we're not going to be together. She made me leave. She made me leave. I was actually on a good note then. I didn't cheat. I didn't lie. I didn't drink too much. I started every year. I try to cut my alcohol in half, and just really try. I'm actually, just so you know, Jim, I'm right now. Monday was 6 weeks sober,
That's awesome,
100%,
dude.
not a drop. Very happy about that. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's going to be long term, but there is some things I have to take care of, and just reevaluate where alcohol plays in my life. I don't know if I'm going to be strong enough to just never drink again. I won't say that. I guess the magic word is one day at a time. But after T left me, she ended up telling me that she was pregnant again, and it was mine. And so I have 2 kids with her, but we're not together now. Right after that, about a month after that, I met my wife that I have now. And she has been a godsend, man. She
She's
has
amazing.
a joy about her. Yeah, you've talked to her. You've there's a
She loves you
yeah,
a lot.
you've talked to her on the phone, and I would love for you to meet her. If we get to do another reunion like we did on Memorial Weekend, she will be coming. She was really jealous.
Well, hell,
But
I look.
she
Or
is.
my wife looked up the other day. I'm pretty sure Seattle's like. I mean, I don't know. I can't remember exactly where you are in Washington, but it's only like
I'm literally
10 or
2 hours
11 hours
south
from
of
here.
Seattle.
Do what?
I'm 2 hours south of Seattle.
Okay, so you're like 9 hours from me, something
Yeah,
like that. That's awesome.
yeah. We've actually taken that drive all the way to Vegas and Reno and all around Nevada. We camped in Death Valley a couple times. So we have no problem making that drive.
Dude, that would be
So
awesome.
yeah. But yeah, she's been a godsend to me, and yeah. And we've been together now for 7 years, and at the beginning we said no kids and no marriage. She was already married for 12 years, and I already been married twice. And I had 3 kids that I don't even get to see a whole lot. I get my son actually he just left. He's living in Chicago with my ex-wife that you've met. And he might be coming to live with me to finish up his teenage years. We're still working that, but he has lived with me for a while, and there's some stories in that I would love to tell you about, because you'd think it cool as shit. But yeah, the wife I have now, we ended up she has 2 kids. That one I'm going to be adopting. Her oldest, she's going to be 20 in September, and she wants me to adopt her as her father, because she had 2 dads that didn't really pan out. She has a stepdad and a real dad, and they don't really care to do their part. And I've been here for 7 years. So she wants me to adopt her. So that's a positive in my life that's going on. And yeah, that's how I keep going. These little positives. And then I circle myself around anybody that has some positive, morally straight compass. Whether they're, yeah, just as long as, I got rid of everybody in my life that has negative vibes, negative, no real morals behind them. If they're not a moral person, I don't need them in my life. And it's done me wonders. I still love a lot of my friends that I had. I just can't have them in my life. I'm too volatile. I know that.
I know. I'm a big believer that you're a product of the 5 or 10 people you spend the most time with. So I try to curate, who I spend time with as well.
Yeah.
Well, we're at a little over an hour. So if we could, dude, it was awesome. If my wife wasn't
I get
waiting
you.
out the,
Mine
like,
too. Mine too.
um,
I
and maybe we can do it again. Maybe you can tell us
Yeah,
some more of your story. I would love to talk
yeah.
to you again, have you back on here.
Um,
But
Jim,
as a final,
I'd love to do a part two, but the flip side. I have a
yeah,
lot of
yeah,
positive
yeah,
too. The flip
yeah.
side.
For sure.
Um,
It's been great talking to all you guys. I feel like just kind of picked up where we left off over 10 years ago. That's really cool.
and for it to be the 20-year anniversary of 9/11, or not 9/11, but Iraq, enduring freedom and Iraqi freedom. It's I can't believe it's been this long since we've been dealing with this, and the aftermath of it, positive or negative. I mean, we're still here.
Right.
You know.
Well, just as a final question for
Yeah.
you, given everything that you've been through, I know you have a giant heart, man. So, for anybody out there that's listening to this or watching this video, that might still be struggling, hasn't figured it out yet, what kind of advice do you have for them? What do you feel like, or is I mean, what you said is like kind of feeding off the good and other people. I think that's amazing. Is there anything else that you can think of that kind of got you over the hump? Was sort of a game changer for you in terms of your healing process.
A couple of pointers would be and advice. Don't give up. Your guys are still there. My wife called you one night when I was hurting, you know, or vice versa, but you guys reached out, when I was in a dark place. And we could talk about that too. Like I said, I'm an open book. But the advice I'd give to guys listening to this is, if you have a faith, rely on your faith. It's not going to fail you. If it's God, if it's yourself, if it's your friends or family, that's what will keep you going. And if you're in doubt, kick everybody out of your life that doesn't need to be there. If they're not a positive influence on your journey, they don't need to be with you.
Yeah, I agree with
Keep
that.
positive people around you. Keep positive people around you. The job I have now, all of them are positive people. I'm gonna stick around this job for a long time. The family I choose to be with, blood is not always thicker than water. If you understand that statement, just because you're blood doesn't mean that they need to be in your life. If they're a negative entity and they're constantly not on your side in a positive manner, they don't need to be there.
Bye, Felicia.
Your wife can be. Bye, Felicia. you know, that's that's what my game changer has been. Really, is kicking everybody out that does not need to be here. If it's a small circle, so be it. Hopefully, it'll be a big circle. If it's your church, go to church. Go 3 times a week. If it's AA, go to AA. As long as there's, a positive, clean influence, keep them in your life. If they're not, kick them out.
That's good. All right, Joe. Well, it's been an awesome discussion. Thank you so much for sharing your story. That was really powerful. I mean,
I can't
honestly,
wait for
part of
this
me,
to
I got
come
a
out.
little bit emotional when you were talking about how seeing the good in other people is what kind of helps you get through the hard shit. And I think that's awesome. So
On our reunion, we did a couple years back on Memorial Weekend. That felt so good because I could see our camaraderie hasn't left.
yeah,
you know,
I got an awesome
and
picture from that,
and
by the way, that I'm gonna I'm gonna make a copy of it and send it to you because you'll love it.
All right.
That's good.
Awesome.
All right, buddy. Well,
Jim, we can do this anytime you want.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Joe. I appreciate it very much, and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Definitely, bud. All right. Talk to you later.
All right. See you, buddy.
Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. We really hope you liked this episode. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. It truly helps, and we appreciate it immensely. And one last thing, guys, please share this video to everyone you think it may help. It allows our content to reach those that may need it most. But all right, see you next time. Peace.